Welcome to the MTD Podcast. I'm Giovanni Albanese, hosting today's show, a passionate engineer and a proud member of the MTD team. I have the privilege and the honour to be joined by Hydrafeed UK today, leading suppliers of automation solutions in the UK. I'm joined by three special guests. Firstly, Martin Page. Martin, I haven't seen you for a while. Welcome to the MTD Podcast.
Thank you, Gio. Pleasure to be here.
Good to see you. Harry Atkins, we're going to be coming to you shortly, a new starter at Hydrafeed. Welcome to the MTD Podcast.
Thank you. Cheers.
And Ashley Page, welcome to the MTD Podcast.
Thank you.
Harry, going to start with you. New starter at Hydrafeed. Firstly, tell us a little bit about yourself, a bit of about your background and how you got into engineering.
Okay, so I worked for an aerospace company for 12 years, straight from school. Done a 4-year engineering apprenticeship there. Like I say, I was there 12 years, and then I worked for a subcontract company for a couple of years after that. And now I'm at Hydrafeed as an automation sales engineer.
Right, we're going to be finding out a little bit more about how you're getting on. Now, Martin, I haven't seen you for a while. I haven't sat down with you for a podcast for a while. What's been happening over the last few years at Hydrafeed?
Well, a great deal, actually, Gio. The company has evolved over the last few years to keep up with the demand for automation here in the UK. As everyone's aware, the lack of skilled staff in the UK especially is forcing companies' hands to look differently at their methods of manufacture. And we've done our best to try and place Hydrafeed in the forefront of that company that can supply automation systems and solutions to our customers. As such, we've seen the business evolve from supplying simple bar feeding solutions to full-length magazine, unloading systems, and more importantly for the evolution of the business, the robotic automation systems for turning and milling. As such, the personnel within the organisation have changed and evolved, and we've made some quite seismic changes within the business, all for the better. We now have a team around us that I truly believe is the best team we've ever had. We have training programs in place for technical support of our products, where we need to be able to put higher technical equipment out there. We need the staff in place to support that. We have a management structure in place now to support those members of staff that are installing our equipment. Those members of staff are growing daily. We are hopefully in front of the curve in the demand for automation here in the UK, and I have to say I'm very proud of the team that we currently have with us. They're doing very well indeed.
Exciting times, Martin. Now, you mentioned demand. There's never been such a demand, high demand for automation in the UK and around the world. You know, have you seen this, and how are you dealing with this massive demand for automated solutions?
That's a good question. We hope we're dealing with it by the personnel. As I say, that the important detail for us is to have trained staff to deal with that demand. We would sooner walk away from something that we know we can't support. We want repeat customers, and to do that, we must have those people in place to support. Yes, at the moment, this last month or so, there has been a quieting of the ways. But what we're doing is we're taking advantage of that by sending our engineers. The bar feed engineers are evolving into robot engineers. Ultimately, our game will be that our complete team of installation engineers will be able to install any of our product. So at the moment, there's a fierce training program going on, enforced by our operations director, who is sending our robot engineers to Belgium to train, in the hope that we're keeping in front of the curve of the demand on our products. And it does seem to be proving very successful at the moment.
So it sounds to me that there's been a lot of restructuring of the business recently.
Yes. There has, yes. There's been a restructuring and growth within the business, the appointment of 2 new directors, a finance director, and Paul, who was our operations manager, is now operations director. And Harry has joined us as a sales engineer from a technical background, and all of these things spearhead our progression within the automation industry within the UK, and it's proven to be very, very successful with the company. We've just had some considerable orders, biggest orders that we've ever taken on, that will be going on over the next year or so, which secures the future of these plans that we have in place for Hydrafeed. And
it's fantastic news.
yeah,
Great news.
it has. The company has evolved over the past few years to be more of a. Few years ago, it was a family business where my son and myself and my wife, with good people around us, could support it. But it has evolved through the work that Ashley and his team have done, especially, where we now have to have these different pillars in place to be able to support it for the company to grow into what we hope it will be in the next few years.
So you're scaling, Martin. Absolutely brilliant news. Now, Ashley, we've known each other for many years now, and you're an ambassador for automation. You know, you really do live and breathe automation. At least it looks like you do from the outside looking in. How's business been for you? I know you're doing a superb job with the robo job, and for the viewers out there or the listeners out there, Hydrafeed specialise in all automation solutions. So they offer the robo job, the industrial robot, the bar feeders, and we're also going to be discussing a new product today later on in the podcast. So stay tuned. Back to the question. Sorry, Ash, how's business for you?
Yeah, good. I think we said earlier that we're seeing the market change a bit, where the demand for automation is necessary now. It's not becoming so optional. If we're all to remain competitive in the environment that we're in, we people need to automate. And we for a few years we were pushing products. We were out there getting the name out there, and maybe sometimes you think this is hard work. But these years later, we're pleased with all that groundwork that we've put in to be, as Martin says, ahead of the curve. We've done all of our groundwork. We're experts in industrial robots, as well as bar feeds now, and the amount of guys that we've gone on actual 6-axis robot training is a lot now. And we really are ahead of where we would be, and we've certainly worked hard to be where we are.
So, you know, you're solution providers. You're not just selling products, Ash. You know, you're selling a complete solution. You know, what does that entail?
So generally, that will entail us to go from the very beginning and site visits, understand customers' needs, and what do we need to do to resolve those. Look at bottlenecks. Look at where the pain points. Where do we help? And by resolving those, what does that do to the step ahead of it or the step behind it? And is it realistic? Can you get all your raw material in time? And just raise all those questions and actually understand what needs to be done, as well as look at the technical solution and provide work holding, or engage other parties to help us out with the work holding, and engage other industry experts. But we'll tie it all in as one and take the responsibility and walk away from site that we're responsible for it. It will leave you cutting metal.
You mentioned that automation is a necessity now. I think that it's been a necessity for many years, but people just didn't realise it. And I think that COVID escalated the demand for emerging technologies such as automation, and the adoption is starting to take place. What would you say that the biggest reason for the adoption of automation currently is at the minute, Ash?
Lack of skilled staff. It's a shame in the same sense, but we are finding that it's a struggling point for everyone. No matter if you turn over 50 million or you turn over 50 quid, you're having a tough time of finding skilled staff. And if we talk about it quite a lot. If you look at a skilled machinist, their time, how much of their time is creative tasks, so getting the machine running, setting the jobs, and how much of their time is repetitive. How do we analyse that? Can we change a lot of the repetitive, get them to do the sort of value-added extra tasks that the business really needs them to make? And can you go from one shift to one shift with 10 extra hours or 5 extra hours, look at the mix of work, and how do we execute that?
I mean, return on investment, so many companies out there that are just running an 8-hour shift. If you can increase that 8-hour shift to 24 hours and utilise all of that time through automation.
Not even necessarily 24 hours. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't need to be as much as that from like 8 hours to 24. You might think that's quite a big jump. Even another 8 hours, you're doubling.
Yeah, absolutely. It's massive, isn't it? And I just can't believe that there's not. I can't believe that there's still companies out there that are not automating when there's that massive gain to be had. Martin, I know that
I
you've
think
got
there's a fear that one of the things that the team at Hydrafeed have to break down is it puts people out of work. We've been in the business now long enough, and Ashley and the team have installed enough robots to know that it has the complete opposite effect. We're not in the business of putting skilled people out of work. Ashley's point about skilled personnel having 70% of their time done with repetitive, dangerous tasks, what we're seeing in true data is that those companies that have invested are coming back for second and third robots. That member of staff is able to be paid more, and because his time is freed up because the robot is doing the dangerous tasks, it allows companies to grow, take on other staff, and have the time to train them. And we are actually seeing that. We're not in the business about putting people out of work. We're seeing some rather adverse headlines upon AI and such. Like it's not, the robotic industry isn't. We're not in the business to put people out of work, and it's proving that with the customers that you have installed them at, aren't they? They're growing. We're the same. We're practicing what we're preaching. We're now just about to install our third robot.
We're
and our headcount hasn't gone down. In quite the opposite. It hasn't been intentional, but we're taking on an apprentice this week. We've got people that are able to increase their earning power because of the robotic industry and because of the robotic installations that we put into our place. If we're a barometer of the industry, it's working very well for us.
I can't agree with you more, Martin. I mean, we're competing in a global market now.
Absolutely.
And, to compete, we need to be competitive. And if we're not competitive, the business wouldn't exist at all and you wouldn't have a job. So the fact that the businesses are becoming more profitable, it's enabling them to upskill the personnel that they've got and hopefully bring in new engineers into the business.
And it allows up UK engineers, which I firmly believe are some of the best in the world. All the Formula One teams can't be wrong. They're all here with some level of manufacture. We do a very, very good job, really good job, and we're as good as anybody in the world. That next step is there now that the UK is embracing, albeit slower than other developed countries, but we are getting there, and we will get there, and we will lead the world in it.
Positive news. And Harry, I want to come to you now. You've been at Hydrafeed for 5 months now, I believe. What's it been like so far in your first sales role?
It's been really good. It's been a good challenge. Obviously, coming from the shop floor into a sales role, it has been. The first few months were quite tough, but I've had good support from Martin and Ashley in bringing myself up to speed with what's required for the job role. It's been good.
Had you used products from Hydrafeed in the past?
Yes, I've used short magazine bar feeds where I used to work in the aerospace industry, as well as the Rotary Pro.
Don't talk about that yet, but we'll be talking about that shortly. And what's your opinion on automation? Can companies in the UK remain competitive without automation?
No, I don't. They can't remain competitive. I mean, I worked at a subcontract company before here, and I would set the machine, setting the machine and making 4 or 5 parts. And then having to run 200 parts, hand loading, 12 kilogram billets by hand, and the machine would run, 25 minute cycle time. I'd be there for 2 or 3 weeks, and it was really boring. Whereas the knowledge that I've got now, if there was a robot on that machine, I could have been programming my next 4 or 5 jobs, whilst that machine was running automated instead of sitting there for hours on end. Hand-loading billets.
I think there's an argument to say that the return of investment is actually faster than what's actually kind of given to the end user. you know, we're sitting here today, and we've been sitting here 5 years ago, still beating the same drum, still being aware of the importance of automation. And we know that the engineers need to invest in automation. We know that, and to a certain degree now, they know that. So why are there still some barriers to entry in the marketplace? I don't fully get it or understand it.
That's a big question. Barriers, I guess it's historically the British way is to pay as least as you can to an operator and keep the machine that you have, whereas that has to be reviewed and looked at again now. People that come into the industry are very transient if they're used in that way. If they're just going to come in and stand in front of a machine, as Harry has said, it must have been incredibly boring to stand there for 25 minutes loading. We're not doing ourselves any favours by doing that. If we can break down that attitude where the mainland Europeans, certainly in my experience of them when Ashley and I and the rest of the team have been out there, mainland Europe tends to be 3 or 4 years in front of us. They'll buy a machine, then their first question will be, how can we automate this? Whereas here in the UK, there's still an element of, we're still learning. We've still got that 3 or 4 years to learn yet before we look at new purchases in that same way that the mainland Europeans do. While we're still looking at paying as low a wage as we possibly can to a trainee to stand in front of a machine and load it, we won't move on. I'm not saying we aren't moving on, we are, but it's never going to happen overnight. With the world as it is at the moment, there's bound to be a certain level of reticence for people spending a considerable amount of money. You talk about the return on the investment. Once they've done it, there'll be no turning back, but it's like everything else, it's that first step to do it. And that's where we are. We're still turning the heads of people to say, look, instead of putting this guy in there just to do that all day, every day, and he'll move on, put a robot there, train that man, and you will become more efficient.
Good points. Now, Ash,
I don't suppose there's so much barriers. I think a lot of it is perception of what a robot is and was. Do you know what I mean? And we're now past what that robot is. So people think, oh, I've got a robot. I've got to have an automotive environment, hundreds of thousands of parts.
Yes, that's true.
And I think the perception was, oh, I'm not even going to look. It's not for me. And I do think a lot of people are now realising that the software in all industries now is getting easier and easier and easier to use, isn't it? And the software is actually making it that much better.
We're not in the sector to offer robots into huge, great millions of components, are we? It's
we could do it; wouldn't be a problem. But like, if you want a robot that will only ever make one part and one part only, you're looking at a lot of different suppliers to do that. But our products are about the flexibility. Our biggest customer base is the subcontract industry that need flexibility. They don't know what they're going to be machining this time next month. That's our ball game, and how do we offer you a solution for that?
Ash, give me an example of an end user where you installed their first ever automated solution, and talk me through the story of them evolving with you. I'm assuming that their first wasn't their last.
No, I mean, recently we did a customer that's not in a very industrial area, but they purchased a system for one of their lathes, and it was they bought the system for about a family of 5 to 6 parts, medical parts, and it proved to be so successful that they were able to win double the amount of work back for this family of parts. They made that part was made on a machine, and they turned some parts, then the other milled parts were done in the workshop elsewhere that were also that were in the same kit of parts. So because they were able to gain more on that side, the milling department benefited from it too. So within 6 months, they had 3 robots.
Wow.
So 1 on a lathe and 2 on milling machines. But it was what it gave them from that first initial. We can now ask more from our customer, because their limiting factor was what we said before. The limiting factor for companies is lack of skilled labour, and customers, there's a lot of busy, good engineering companies out there that could ask for more work and they could take more work on, but they can't because their limiting factor is keeping the machines running.
Capacity.
Yeah, and I don't think so as well, maybe just to say it, people don't know that we can retrofit. So you've got a machine, it's got the programs already written, it's got the tool life already proven off. You know the part, you've understood it on the part. You haven't got to go from the word go. You don't need process engineers in to prove off new products, the way you do it, and understand the new tooling and have a new machine, find a new floor space. Let's automate your existing machinery. And if you've got successful parts that are your bread and butter for your company, let's automate. Let's use that 80-20 rule. Let's not go for the most hardest, difficult part you've got. Let's
talk me through the consultancy side of your business, because this is a big part of Hydrafeed now. You're not just selling products like we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. You know, talk me through this, because this is so important, and it comes back to as well the skill levels out there, because a lot of the engineers now are dependent on suppliers to help them set up different cells and bespoke solutions. So talk me through not only the automation, but the complete process, including work holding.
There's lots of different approaches that customers have to us. Sometimes we'll get somebody say, I want to automate that machine, that family of parts and that, and I'll know that will give me my benefits. And there's not a great deal of hard work goes into it. You got to achieve numbers of lights out time and running and bits and bobs like that. So it's quite straightforward to achieve, and maybe they just need a little bit of work holding, and we engage either work holding that we already know or bring in third parties. But the other flip of the coin is companies that know they need to automate and got a bank of 20 machines and they don't know where to start. And I think people think, well, I've got to buy 5 robots, but you don't need to. What we'll do is we'll come in and we'll analyse all of your machines, and we'll identify the best fit for the automation, and maybe narrow your 20 machines down to your best 4 and rank them in 4, and then we can analyse that there. I mean, then your priorities are machine 1, 2, 3 and 4, but how do we automate them, and look at the extremities of what goes on them. So the biggest part to the smallest part and everything, and therefore we cater for everything in between. So look at the variance on sort of the payload of the robot, maybe the work holding, the chuck sizes, whatever that may be, and maintain the flexibility. And it might be the customer says, well, I want 2 vices on the machine table automated and then 2 manual. So then we'll use the machine in the day manually, and at night we use it with the robot, or you use it all the time with the robot.
Is this free consultancy?
Yeah. Yes, yeah, it's about us getting to a point of a solution and offering that. But yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
Well,
Generally, we find that there's a 5 points of contact before we get the order from our customers. From what Ashley has said, you can now hope to see why it was so important that when Harry joined us, we collectively made a decision that we wanted somebody with a machining technical background to be able to speak to our customers, because in our industry you can very, very easily get caught out. We are helping and supplying and selling to like-minded people. So when Harry joined us, it was more important for us to have somebody that understood the requirements of our customers, and for Harry to be able to speak to them and understand their requirement to fulfill those roles that Ashley has just described with you. And those roles, those requirements filter down to the long magazine bar feeds, the short ones. Wherever we look, there is a requirement from our customer. Because of the reticence in investment with some people, there has to be a level of confidence in the company that are supplying, which is why it was important for Harry to have an understanding of all things machining. We didn't want somebody that had just been selling all sorts of products. We wanted somebody that was a good machining background to join us, and it's proving very well.
Harry, have you sold a product yet? My first question.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yes,
been getting them in. Yeah.
And with quite a large portfolio of automation solutions, what has been your biggest challenge in regards to learning about any particular one?
It's definitely the robot side of, like, the RoboJob robots. There's a lot to learn. With the different capabilities of the robot and stuff like that. But I'm getting there.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
And you mentioned a new product, so I
Yep.
think you should be the person
Okay.
to tell us about it.
So
please.
our new product is the Rotary Pro Parts Accumulator, which is a conveyor system with like a rotary table, where the parts will come out of the machine, from the parts catcher of the machine onto the conveyor, onto the turntable part of the Rotary Pro and accumulate in the middle, which is good.
Because it's got height adjustment.
Height adjustment, and we're also offering a few different sizes.
Is that dependent for volumes?
Yeah, dependent on volumes and obviously space in front of machine tools, depending on the space requirements.
And this is all going to be manufactured here in the UK by Hydrafeed.
Fantastic. And is this breaking news, by the way, Martin?
To some extent. I mean, it's been on the table for a while, but everybody probably knows that we import something, but we were limited. It wasn't our product. Our customers were asking, as Harry has said, for all sorts of different variants upon it. We've got a very, very good team around us, and we looked at it and thought, well, we'll make it ourselves. Costs are an issue, of course, and we know that we can make it better and more competitively priced than what we're currently having to import, and it gives our staff a product to manufacture. There's many benefits, as Harry will. The belt system is a different thing. It's driven rather than rollers, and it can go left to right, and it's.
Can we come and review the product?
You
at some
can,
point?
yes, yeah. It's the first batch are ready to go now, and it's a really good product. It's very good. We've learned from what our customers want. We've listened to them. It can go left to right, right to left, different heights, different sizes. In some of our businesses that we've worked with, there have been a coolant issue, so we've made the belt to allow the coolant to drain through, bigger drain tank. There's all sorts of benefits with it that Harry will be able to expand upon. We're just in the process of doing the literature for it. It will be on our new website, and we're looking forward to putting the parts through our own workshop, on our own machines, using our own robots.
Exciting times, really exciting times. And like I say, it'd be great for us to kind of review this new product at a later date. And we're unfortunate we're coming to the end of this podcast now, but for the viewers and listeners of this podcast, what messages do you have for people that maybe have not fully automated yet? Why do they
Don't be frightened of it. It can only benefit and only improve your efficiencies. And if anybody wants to come to Hydrafeed, the members of the team will show them, and we can show it working on milling, turning, give them facts and figures. I can show them the parts that we're making, how we used to make it and how we make it now. You don't have to train your staff to be robot programmers.
Training takes hours now. Yeah, the software is so far developed and so easy to use. Training is done in half a day, really. We offer 2-3 days as standard, but a lot of companies just hold it and use it as and when they need it. Maybe new starters or something along the lines of that. But yeah, I totally agree with Martin. Don't be intimidated by it. Think if you come and explore it. I mean, there's no harm in having a quick 10-minute chat and what can it do for you. But if you've got parts that you are bottlenecking, difficult to get through the workshop, or come and have a chat. We're going to talk. We've got a magic wand to make things work, and if you've got a part which is duplex stainless steel and it only lasts for one tip, that's going to be quite a tough one. But there's ways and means around and talking things through. So I totally agree. Yeah.
No, brilliant, Ash. Thank you, Harry. Any last thoughts?
Just get in touch with us really at Hydrafeed. Yeah,
good luck for the future.
Yeah, definitely. Well. Yeah, we'll always come out. I mean, I'll always come out and visit and do the site surveys and stuff and see what we can do for you. For your automation needs. Yeah, definitely.
Great to meet you today, and thanks for your time, Martin. I'm going to leave it to you now. Any last thoughts?
No, I think the team have said all I need to say, and we look forward to the future with Hydrafeed, and hopefully the UK continues to embrace all things robotic automation, because we're there for you if you need us.
Well, thank you very much for
You're
joining us on the MTD podcast today. It's been brilliant to have you in the studio. So there you have it, the MTD podcast with Hydrafeed, one of the UK leading suppliers of automation solutions. If you've got any inquiries, don't hesitate to contact them. Until next week, the MTD podcast.
Thanks for listening to the MTD Podcast. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. Find more episodes on MTDCNC.com.